The silence inside the happy beholder was almost unbearable. Beer covered the floor, and every patron stared at Argent after his maintenance hatch had unexpectedly emptied the contents of half a barrel across the tavern. Elena sat frozen beside the retired GIF Commodore she had spent the better part of the day searching for, while Argent calmly surveyed the destruction before stating, in his usual matter-of-fact tone, that it was not urine. For several long seconds, nobody reacted. Then Wendell, the enormous beholder who owned the tavern, burst into booming laughter. The room quickly joined him, and what had seemed destined to become a disaster instead became another story to accompany a night of drinking. With the awkwardness behind them, Commodore Crocs introduced himself, and the party brought him up to speed on everything that had happened since Lyra's destruction. The fall of Old Terra, their escape aboard the Moondancer, Travis's betrayal, the derelict Nautiloid, and Jarlin's revelation that the Astral Empire was destroying worlds by planting crystal seeds that harvested their life essence. Elena explained that her attempt to secure an audience with the Prince of Rock of Braal had failed. Crocs admitted he could arrange passage into astral space, but warned that confronting the Empire directly would be suicide. Instead, he proposed traveling to Doom Space, where influential princes and rulers gathered. If the Empire's plans could be exposed there, perhaps Lyra could be saved. To reach Doom Space, however, they would first need the help of Topola, a reclusive wizard and cartographer who lived alone on a nearby asteroid and possessed charts few others did. Their course decided, the party left the happy beholder and headed for the docks. Along the way, Argent quietly questioned local merchants about the Fellstone Company. He learned the corporation had arrived on Rock of Braal only weeks earlier, aboard one of its distinctive metal ships. Its representative now resided within High City's noble estates, and was rumored to be preparing an expansion beyond the Undercity. Argent committed every detail to memory. If he wished to uncover the truth behind Dr. Isaac's death, recover his missing anchor chip, or learn what Fellstone had become, this representative would likely become his best lead. For now, however, those questions would have to wait. Before the party reached the docks, a hooded stranger bumped into Donnie. The encounter seemed accidental, until Donnie noticed glowing eyes beneath the stranger's hood and heard a quiet remark about revenge. Moments later, 3 more cloaked figures emerged from the surrounding alleys. The Astral Elves had found them. The assassins struck without warning. Still dulled by the previous night's celebration, the party reacted on instinct. Argent threw Donnie into the nearest attacker before joining the fight himself, while Odie empowered his staff with magic, and Commodore Crocs joined the battle with pistol in hand. The Astral Elves quickly seized the initiative, their radiant arrows and coordinated attacks driving the party back. Argent was badly wounded, and Odie was overwhelmed before collapsing unconscious. Just as the battle seemed lost, Donnie found his footing. Fighting through the lingering effects of the alcohol, he drove the attackers back with a relentless assault, buying Argent the opportunity to systematically bring down the remaining assassins, while Crocs finally landed the decisive shot that ended the fight. The victory came at a heavy price. Argent was severely wounded, Odie hovered at death's door, and only Donnie and Crocs remained capable of standing. Knowing the city watch would soon arrive, Argent stabilized Odie before searching the bodies. Among the assassins' belongings, the party discovered an official document bearing the seal of Count Hashtane, granting the Astral Elves diplomatic immunity within Rock of Braal. With no intention of answering awkward questions from the authorities, the party hurried aboard the Moondancer. Within minutes, Elena cast off from the docks, leaving Rock of Braal behind as the wounded adventurers disappeared once more into the Astral Sea. The voyage to Topola's secluded asteroid would take several days, giving the party something they had scarcely enjoyed since the attack on Lyra. Time to recover. Odie was carried below deck after the ambush, while Donnie slept off both his wounds and the previous night's drinking. Argent, unable to repair himself without Odie's magic, quietly waited outside the druid's cabin, conserving what little functionality remained. That night, Odie dreamed once more. The alien intelligence he had encountered aboard the derelict Nautiloid returned, revealing the true cost of the gifts it had bestowed. Every victim he had secretly bitten in Rock of Brow had become the beginning of an illithid plague spreading beneath the city. The Hive was pleased, but demanded stronger hosts and greater servants. Then the mysterious golden-haired woman appeared. Unlike the Hive, she offered Odie a choice. Urging him to abandon the path of corruption, she helped him purge much of the illithid influence from his body. As he accepted her guidance, dark violet fluid poured from his mouth, and when he awoke, Bolin rested quietly beside his bed. For the first time since the Nautiloid, the whispers had fallen silent. Morning brought little clarity. Donnie remembered almost nothing after entering the Happy Beholder, while Odie chose not to speak of his dream. Argent, meanwhile, finally received the repairs he desperately needed, though not before Donnie confidently repaired one of his injuries by reconnecting 2 loose wires, despite having no understanding of machinery. Somehow, it appeared to work. As the days passed, life aboard the Moondancer settled into a routine. Donnie spent his time learning about wild space from Elena and Commodore Crocs, while Argent established a small alchemical workspace in the captain's quarters. His plans to cultivate the poisonous seeds he had purchased ended almost immediately when Odie pointed out a simple oversight. He had forgotten to buy dirt. As they were traveling through the astral sea, they spotted a family of enormous Kindori gliding beneath the ship. The peaceful space whales circled the Moondancer, drawing the entire crew to the rail. At Argent's request, Odie reached out to the creatures, receiving little more than simple impressions of calm waters and safe passage. Before departing, however, the Kindori lingered, sensing that something precious traveled aboard the ship. At first, Odie believed they meant his mushrooms. Then Donnie jokingly lifted Bolin into the air. The whale's attention immediately shifted to the ram, who responded by relieving himself on Donnie's head. As the laughter faded, Odie spoke of the golden-haired woman who had appeared in his dream, and her insistence that Bolin must be protected. Ordinarily, Argent would have dismissed the vision as the result of fever or mushrooms, but he had seen the same woman aboard the Moondancer himself. Whatever she was real. As the Kindori disappeared into a shimmering nebula, Argent wondered whether Bolin himself knew more than he let on. He asked Odie to speak with the ram, but the druid became unusually reluctant. Rather than perform the ritual, he quietly exhausted the last of his remaining magic, healing himself, until he could truthfully claim he no longer possessed the strength to speak with animals. Neither Argent nor Donnie found the explanation convincing. Before either could press him further, Argent noticed something enormous emerging from the colorful nebula ahead. As the Moondancer continued toward Topola's asteroid, the enormous shape emerging from the shimmering nebula gradually revealed itself. It was a colossal celestial jellyfish, larger than the Spelljammer itself. For the briefest moment, Argent thought he saw a humanoid figure standing within its translucent form, before it vanished from sight. A voice suddenly echoed across the deck. Its owner was no longer aboard the approaching creature. He was already standing on the Moondancer. The stranger introduced himself as Count Hashtane and politely requested that the party accompany him back to Rock of Brow to answer for the deaths of several astral elf diplomats. When confronted with the document recovered from the assassins, however, he made no attempt to deny his involvement. He openly admitted that he had granted the astral elves diplomatic immunity and expressed no remorse for either the ambush or the attack on Lyra. To him, the world had simply served a greater purpose. The discussion ended when Donnie scooped the dried ram droppings from his hair and threw them directly into Hashtane's face. Argent attacked at the same instant. The battle quickly proved that Hashtane was unlike any opponent they had faced. With Odie's magic nearly exhausted, the party struggled to gain the advantage as the Count effortlessly avoided Argent's attempts to disable him while countering with deadly precision. During the fighting, he revealed that Fellstone Company had placed a substantial bounty on Argent's return and remarked that he would gladly collect it himself. Realizing he was outnumbered, Hashtane crushed a jeweled pendant, creating a perfect duplicate of himself. The party was forced to divide its strength between two equally dangerous opponents, and the battle immediately turned against them. Argent was eventually struck unconscious. As he collapsed, the hastily reconnected wiring Donnie had unknowingly crossed finally failed, causing critical systems to misfire and rapidly draining the little power he had left. Moments later, Odie, already weakened from the previous day's fighting, collapsed as well, despite expending the last of his remaining magic to keep Donnie in the fight. At that moment, the celestial jellyfish joined the battle. Its immense tentacles swept across the Moondancer, seizing Donnie, Odie, and Commodore Crocs, while their corrosive secretions burned through flesh and armor alike. Fighting both the creature and Hashtane at once pushed the party to its limits. With Argent unconscious and Odie barely alive, Donnie and Crocs somehow managed to destroy Hashtane's duplicate and force the Count onto the defensive. Wounded himself and no longer willing to risk the fight, Hashtane abandoned his attempt to capture the party and escaped aboard the waiting jellyfish by means of a teleportation spell. Before departing, however, the creature lashed out one final time. A massive tentacle shattered the Moondancer's main mast before unleashing a tremendous pulse of arcane energy that silenced the ship's magic and left it drifting helplessly through the astral sea. The same blow hurled Flapjack, the spell-jamming helmsman, violently across the helm. When the silence finally settled over the deck, the battle was over. Argent lay unconscious. Odie barely clung to life. Donnie and Commodore Crocs remained standing only through sheer determination. The Moondancer drifted powerless through wild space, its mast destroyed, its helm disabled, and its helmsman lying motionless beside the spell-jamming chair. Whether Flapjack had survived the attack, none of them yet knew.